Sahabat Green, di tahun 2016 mungkin pernah menonton berita atau speech dari Eni Lestari yang luar biasa di forum besar United Nations. Nah, kemarin kita memiliki kesempatan berbicara dengan Eni Lestari. Mari simak bagaimana perbincangannya. So the things that I know about you, about Mrs. Annie, is that you are Indonesians migrant workers in Hong Kong, and you'll be able to speak in the UN Summit for Refugees and Migrants in New York 2016. And can you tell a little bit about what you're doing there? And yeah.
Yeah. So when IMA was established in 2008, the number of migrants in the world and refugee has been very big. Even when I spoke at the United Nations in 2016, the number of the migrants and immigrants were around 250 million people. That is as big as Indonesian population. And we are the fourth nation in the world, right? So you can imagine the people who are being displaced from their own homeland and they are moving from one country to another country is really big. And the number continue to increase every single year because of the poverty, because of the war, because of the climate change now, because of the environmental destruction. So up to now, the United Nations said they have more than 260 million migrants population. Now the refugee is another population. Currently the United Nations said there is more than 60 million refugee and other displaced people. So when you say refugee, they are basically people who are being recognized by the United Nations, who are being displaced because of war or because of other military conflict, right? But remember, there are also another type of refugee who are moving out from their home countries because of the environmental destruction. So now with the climate change today, there are more areas or territory that is too dry, full of flood, and even with earthquake and so forth. And the community will not be able to return back to their home countries. I think in Indonesia, we have a lot of cases like that. With last year or 2 years ago with Sulawesi and some places in Java Island. So practically this is the people who become refugees. Some become refugee within the country, but some who are able to move out, they will become refugee to other countries. So they are usually stateless people with no documentation, no passport, and no other type of legal recognition.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. That's so interesting. And can I know what is your activities now?
Now, because of the COVID-19, everything has been put on hold. A lot of conferences from United Nations, for example. This year, IMA supposed to participate in different international conferences at New York, in Australia, in other part of the world. But everything stopped because of COVID-19, So now we have to change the format into an online forum. So I've been busy participating for IMA in different online forums. Now, every meeting, we cannot even organize face-to-face meeting because of the lockdown and a lot of travel restrictions. So all my meeting is now become online meeting. And even in Hong Kong, where I'm living today, has been very highly restricted. You cannot go out with big group, so only two people, and that really make us unable to get together. Hong Kong is a home for almost 400,000 migrant workers who work as a domestic worker from Philippines, Indonesia, Thai, Sri Lanka, and Nepal. In the past, before COVID-19, we usually always gather, at least every week we always have activities. Once a month, all nationality will come together, we always organize forum, cultural activities. Sometimes we also do protests and lobby with the government. So we were very, very alive as a community. But now because of COVID-19, we can't meet not even our own members, and because Hong Kong is very afraid with the infection.
Yes.
A lot of employer also, they tell the workers not to go out on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
So you can imagine a lot of our members
Mm-hmm.
do not have holiday. So
Okay.
we actually lost a lot of our members in the past 6 months, and
Mm-hmm.
there are only few people who can go out on Sunday. And this is the people, including myself, who should be working very hard, going
Mm-hmm.
around to different community, providing information, helping them with legal information, and we also give them like a free mask, alcohol, like sanitizer. We
Okay.
also try to help them with for example, if they need to go home and they do not know what to do because all the flight canceled,
Mm-hmm.
they also
Mm-hmm.
need to have a COVID-19 test. So
Yes.
all these things, it become very, very heavy and very
Mm-hmm.
hectic. So I've been almost all my Saturday, Sunday, I've been busy with the domestic workers community here, doing all this empowerment and services. Yeah, so I thought with lockdown and COVID-19, we will do less because we always stay
Mm-hmm.
in the house. But honestly, we have been doing more than the usual
Mm-hmm.
activities in the past. Everything is new normal for us. We have
Yes.
to do the work behind the wall. We have to do everything online. You have to meet one to one. In the past, sometimes we meet like 20 people, 30, 50 people. Now you can't. You only meet like
Mm-hmm.
one, two
Mm-hmm.
person in one time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's so many obstacles about us, this COVID-19, right?
Yes, that's
Mm-hmm.
true. Yeah. It's very difficult, honestly.
And your activity, you're still working as a postal workers, right?
Yes, yes. I'm still working. Yeah, I've been with this employer for many years. So we have very good relationship and we have a mutual understanding. And then we also try to help each other. So we kind of respect each other privacy, each
Mm-hmm.
other time, and also because my employer believe in human rights. And
Oh, great.
yeah, something like a cooperation.
But you are also at the same time you're the directors of IMA, right? International
Yeah,
Migrant Alliance.
yeah, so IMA is not an NGO.
Mm-mm.
IMA is a alliance, a grassroots alliance. So this is
Okay.
like a, a big organization. We
Mm-hmm.
have members in more than 30 countries, and then uh, the number of members we have today is around 180 organization. And then we have a general assembly every 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So we have what we call it international assembly. So every 3 years, all members from different countries will come together, and then we will discuss a political issue, the
Mm-hmm.
situation of migrant and refugee, and then we will also discuss how is IMA as alliance. So that we have an election every 3 years. So
Mm-hmm.
I've been elected as the chairperson since 2008. I'm the first chairperson, and up to
Okay.
now, yeah.
Oh, so it's been like 12 years you become
Yes,
the director of
yes,
IMA. That's great. Oh
yes,
my
yes,
God.
yes.
Okay. Can you tell us about the missions of the big missions and also uh, the missions about the IMA itself to the world or also to the local?
Yeah. So, what is the mission of IMA? Well, before IMA was established in 2008, uh, the number of migrants and refugee were already a big one. Yeah. But
Mhm.
because the problem is we are the people who don't have right
Okay.
to join the union or talk to the government. We
Mhm.
cannot travel to United Nations in New York or Geneva. We
Mhm.
cannot go abroad to attend conferences. A lot of problem of migrants and refugee are invisible, hidden. Like you don't really know what's happening.
Mhm.
Sometimes even in the like in Sumatra, for example, there are a lot of refugee. The Indonesian government even has accommodation
Mhm.
refugee camp, in the
Yes.
border of Sumatra and Australia.
Mhm.
And many of them really stay there for many, many years, but no one knows, like
Yeah.
they only see them once a while because these people go out. but they don't really understand why are you even there, you know. And the problem also in language, we cannot communicate. Sometimes they are afraid to talk to us. We are afraid to talk to them.
Yes.
But also sometimes the problem also because the local people are so afraid with stranger. Like, who are you? You know, why you are even here? You know. So many of them have very negative impression
Yes.
on refugee migrants. You know, but
Many stigma. Okay.
yeah, a lot of stigma, and because of that, a lot of discrimination against refugee and migrants, right? But the fact is, actually, if you see migrants, most of us are workers, right? We work
Yes.
in farm, we work in plantation, we work in factories, we work in the houses, we work in the elderly homes, we work some in the hospital. We also work in, you know, like cleaning service, restaurant. We are everywhere, actually, you know. We
Yes.
are in the construction, everywhere, you know. Which country do not have migrant workers, especially country with very good economy?
Yes.
US, Canada, Europe, you know, even in Asia is Hong Kong, Taiwan, Singapore, Korea. All this country really rely to the labor of the migrants, you know. Uh, but the thing is, the reason why a lot of our issue, our problem are hidden is because we are recruited as a temporary migrants, and we are isolated in the houses or maybe dormitories or labor camps, you know. Like in Singapore, they recruited you know, Bangladeshi, Indian, and Pakistan uh, male migrants, but they put them in the camp, you know, in the housing that is very far isolated and no one knows, you know. So and they work very long hours from morning sometime to evening and sometime to night, so
Okay.
they don't have time to interact with people. And sometimes also the government always you know have they also come up with very discriminatory statement. Oh, that is a brown people, you know, or maybe they will say black people, you know, and
Because
then
of their skin colors, right?
color. So they use the race. Oh, this helper. Oh, this one is construction workers. Oh, this like in Malaysia they call them Indon. You know, when they say Indon means they are referring to Indonesian who are cheap labor or import. You know, people who are in the low rank. You know, so that's that kind of stigma that is promoted by the government make us all the more become invisible in the eyes of the communities. And because of that, government can easily a lot of regulation. They come up with a new policies, and they come up with a new, okay, let's make more labor camps, or let's make more this, or don't allow this workers to go to the city, or let them stay there, blah blah, you know. So
Yeah.
all our problem, like, not really many people knows,
Okay.
no.
Okay.
So that's the reason why you can imagine how can we engage in the advocacy with the United Nations, with ILO, or with other international organization,
Yeah.
if you don't have the freedom yourself.
Okay.
You have no
That's right.
freedom, you have no union, you, you have no supporting system, you don't have any local who is with you to help you, you have no one. You are just staying there for 2 years, 5 years, and then you go home. And then you work every day, non-stop, you know, sometimes even no holiday. So you
Yes.
practically work as what we call it a robot or slave. Yeah,
Slavery.
slavery. So that's why when we from IMA, we actually say we have to change this. We have to learn how to speak our own problem by ourselves,
That's right.
and we have to face the government, the United Nations, anyone who actually talk about migration, but they never include migrant workers. I mean, that's very unfair, right? So that's how IMA was formed. So 2008 formed that. We have this motto that for a long time, other people already spoke on behalf, and now we speak for ourselves. So we want to reclaim our position. in the decision-making process. And that's why IMA in the past 10 years, even 12 years, have been very active in speaking out.
Okay.
So we go to United Nations, we go to trade union, we go to interfaith communities, we go to any different type of platform that will help us speak out, and also want to get more and more support from other people, from the group, from environment group, from climate justice group, from the youth, the interfaith communities, or any who believe in human rights, actually a right of all. So that's what we have been doing. That's why in 2016, it was the one of our achievement.
Big achievements.
It's a big achievement that the United Nations invited person like me, who is really a migrant worker myself, and my colleague that time was really a refugee from Syria. So according to the United Nations, staff and other people, in the past they don't usually include people from the ground.
Okay, so
it's always people from the top, like researcher, a big name, like Amnesty International or Oxfam or what we call it international NGOs, which is okay, but sometimes they cannot speak the whole thing.
Yes, the problem, the big problem,
they
don't know
cannot
the big
speak
problem.
The big problem. You're right. Yeah.
Okay, so you already mentioned about your networking, that you also work with others alliances, right? So it was a big movement to what you're working with. So, and then next, maybe, how does you reflect about human issues yourself, and what kind of effort that you made as a movement, this movement to facilitate to solve the problem that you already know?
Yeah, the biggest difficulties for us is really connecting migrants and refugee groups, because as I said, many of them are invisible. They are in lockdown by the employer companies. You cannot really go there, right? Like for example, plantation in Malaysia, you just cannot go there. And then many of them also do not have legal documents. So it's really difficult to connect. You have to use a lot of efforts and methods to connect with them. Now, thanks to social media, that we have a new channel to connect, right? But even though the biggest challenge for us is connecting the grassroots people who are scattered and isolated in different places, so they will also learn from each other, and also they will be motivated, but also they will learn how to speak out. So that's really the biggest challenge. So connection is a problem. Second is language is also a big issue. You have a lot of I learned in my journey as an IMA chair that when I meet people from Europe who is from Kurdistan, or maybe from Turkey, or maybe from Africa, and I also meet people in US who is coming from different countries in Latin America, many of them don't speak English.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't speak their language too, So now at least there is Google Translation.
Yes.
At least use that to talk to them. But then it's very difficult because you cannot do texting all the time, right? You text like that. So the language is also very challenging for us. So I have to find a good person or organization who actually can help translate, connect, and others. Another biggest problem, the third biggest problem, is actually how to bring them to speak up in different forum, maybe in regional or international. So why? Because they cannot travel, because they have to work, and also they don't have document, and then also sometimes also they are not very confident to speak out, in the global forum. So it's really step-by-step process, So most of officer of IMA are really the grassroots. Many of them are workers. They work in in the US, they work in Europe, so it's not easy to just to just tell them to go up to the podium. They have to make a lot of arrangement. And then also another problem we face really about the United Nations process is very complicated.
Can you tell about it?
It's not easy just to go there and speak,
Okay.
You have to fill up a lot of form, you have to explain about yourself, and you have to get a lot of supporter to even help you to do that. And sometimes they need recommendation, who is your partner. So those things make us very difficult to even engage, That's why many grassroots migrants will just say, okay lah, I will just talk to my own people. It's difficult to go up. So that's why my responsibility, and even IMA, is making sure that, to find a way.
Okay.
You can do it. Okay. Let's find a way how to do it. Something like that, to give them the confidence. If I can do it, you can do it. Yeah.
Okay, so is that IMA also doing some capacity building to the immigrant workers?
Yes, we do. Actually, the capacity building in the past 2 or 3 years, we started doing that. Because again, the reality, it's not very easy because people are coming from different countries. The migration in Asia is quite different with migration in US.
Okay,
and in Europe, so you cannot just put them together without finding a way how to connect those issue. Otherwise, they will see it like, oh, you are different from me, I'm different from you. But the point is, we are all the same because we come from poor country. We are women. We are also, we don't have a job, and some of us also victim of disaster, environmental destruction. Some of us also victim of war and military conflicts. So we have so many common stories. But this thing we have to find time to share, So in IMA we have a lot of sharing. So what happened to you? Why you become migrant? Oh, why you become refugee there? Oh, so a lot of this sharing to have a common understanding. So I think that's what IMA is able to help in the past. So from there, in the past 2 years, we try to organize various training for the leader, but also for the members. But again, because international training is very expensive, we don't have funding. So we try to do, now with COVID-19, we try to do it online.
Okay.
Yeah, but in the future, we really want to organize training in different region, in the US, in Canada, in Europe, in the Pacific, in Pacific, even in Asia. We want to organize different training to help the migrants to understand the global context. Why you and me are just the same. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, maybe let me turn on the lights first because this is so light, so dark. Okay, it was so great to hear what you're working with, and then it is so amazing. I can say that I'm a fan of you.
Thank you.
And
thank you for being our supporter.
Yeah, and what you're talking about when you're talking as a US speaker, what is the international policies that did you want to achieve in the future?
In terms of international policy, the government in the world today, they create another body. They call it the Global Forum on Migration and Development. This body is an informal network of government of sending countries, transit countries, and receiving countries who employ and have migrants and refugees. So, but the problem with this body is different with the United Nations. Okay, the United Nations, at least they believe in human rights. and you can also file case, at the UN. You can also demand accountability from the government. Like for example, if this government abuse or treat a migrant so badly, you can also ask report. But the problem is the GFMD, that body is outside the United Nations, and they don't have accountability. And that body is very, very important to migrant and to migrant workers, because they are the one who actually deciding how migration should look like. For example, they are saying, the people who should be protected, only legal migrants. So only they call it regular migrants. Actually, they are saying legal migrants. But the problem in the world today, many countries, at least 40%, 30 to 40% of the migrant population is illegal, or we call it undocumented people. They don't have documents, but they've been living in the US. For example, in the US, the population of immigrants is around 35 million, but the undocumented is 11 million. So it's a very big number, right?
Yeah.
So how can you don't care about them? So that's the problem. And then the second about this body, the problem with their thinking or orientation is they want to use these migrants, the legal migrants, to create to raise the money and cheap labor, so they can continue with project. Like we call it a free market project. That means they make a mall, building, a road, real estate from the migrants. That's how Malaysia looks like. Malaysia has became like what Malaysia today. Malaysia truly Asia is because of migrants. Have this twin tower because of migrants. But the problem is this body doesn't recognize the equal right of migrants. That means you don't have right to stay, to change job, or maybe to live there. Like with me, I cannot even live in Hong Kong. I've been working here, but that doesn't mean you can be Hong Kong citizen or Hong Kong resident. You cannot do that because this government don't like it. Okay, so that means you are a temporary forever until you are old, and then you will have to be kicked out, to your country. So that is the international agenda we want to change. We actually want that body to be dissolved. We don't need the GFMD. We want all the system to go back to the United Nations, because at least you will have more transparent system where you will ask government to report. And you can also file case to the Human Rights Council, something like that. But now we cannot do that.
Okay, that's great. And so I have been mentions about green radio line as a concerns about environment and climate issues. And according to you, what do you think about environment issues and climate movements right now? Because you've been also mentions about this in the first we're talking, and can you give?
Yes, actually, the environment become we have a new type of migration today that we call them climate migrants or climate refugee. Okay, in the past when people migrate, it is because of poverty. Like in Indonesia, we are so poor. So people in Java Island are moving out in Kalimantan and other area to Malaysia, to Hong Kong, to Taiwan and others, right? So the poverty. Second is really about the war, like in the Palestine, in Afghanistan and so forth. So they become refugee. But now we have a new family, which is because of the climate or environment. So and then also there are a lot of study who already predicted in the next 50 years, some places in the world will sink some island in Pacific will sink to the sea.
Okay.
Some part of Indonesia, maybe some part of Bangladesh will also sink. So that means these people will have to move out from their island, or else they die, right?
Yes.
So, but even today, the people who migrate in the big number, in the whole village, the whole community, as a refugee or as a climate migrants and refugee, are already many. Yeah,
Got it.
and they stay in the border because they cannot go to the city. Yeah, they cannot go to the town. And then even when they stay in the city and they are being taken care of by some countries, they put them in the camp. They don't treat them like they are normal people.
They are a human.
They are not like a human. You like stay in the camp, you are just staying there, don't do anything, and others. So there are really a lot of discrimination, but also isolation against the climate refugee. And the problem also with the climate change today, a lot of funding report already that said the global warming is really caused because of the overproduction of companies, corporates. They keep making clothes, they keep making a lot of electronic, they non-stop making, make different type of needs, that we don't even need. And that actually create, that increase the heat
pollutions,
the pollution and the environment, and that eventually actually speed up the process of global warming. So again, if you have to ask accountability, like who should be blamed for this type of crisis, it's really the corporates, the transnational corporation who don't care. Like in Sumatra, they just remove all the forests and change it with
palm oil trees,
right? With palm oils. And then remember, Sumatra and Kalimantan, like Amazon, Amazon forest is part of the lung of the world. It actually, purify, the whole pollution. But now they burn, the forest. So it's really a big concern now in Amazon. They are even killing the indigenous people because they want to take over the forest. Yeah, and of course, I'm also worried in Indonesia, for example. Jokowi already said they will transfer the capital to Kalimantan. But what does it mean? That means Kalimantan, which is one of, half of the lung of the world today, the care of the human life and the being in the world, will also be destroyed. So it will become another Jakarta with no forest, very dry. And then what will happen to all of us? So I think you can see that the government, the corporation, they don't really care. And this is the reason why migrant workers, migrants movement, like in IMA, we are also fighting against the corporate, taking away land, killing indigenous people, burning the forest. For us, it is you just create more migrants and you are just killing people in the future, because maybe in the next generation they have nothing to live anymore in this earth. So I think that's the reason why IMA see that climate justice is also our fight.
Okay, that's amazing, that's great. Dari tadi kita ngomong dengan bahasa Inggris nih, padahal kita orang Indonesia. Boleh dong sekarang ngomongnya pakai bahasa Indonesia ya kak ya?
Transisi ya?
Ya transisi, nggak bahasa Inggris mulu. Nah mungkin udah sampai di tahap akhir nih, kakak bisa sampaikan tentang kesimpulan kakak mengenai isu kemanusiaan, human rights yang sedang kakak perjuangkan, tentang teman-teman kita buruh migran di sana, dan juga isu lingkungan yang tadi kakak sampaikan. Mungkin kesimpulannya aja nih.
Ya, jadi memang masalah migrasi hari ini itu sesuatu yang tidak bisa kita sepelekan. Sudah tadi saya katakan bahwa jumlah migran di dunia itu sudah mencapai 260 juta, sebesar populasi masyarakat Indonesia, dan 60 atau lebih juta dari pengungsi. Nah, kalau kita kombinasikan, mereka sudah mencapai lebih dari 310 juta. Jadi bayangkan populasi sebesar itu hidupnya terkatung-katung dari satu tempat ke tempat lain, banyak yang mati, banyak yang kelaparan, kemudian banyak yang tidak punya dokumen, tidak punya akses pendidikan, pelayanan kesehatan, dan bahkan tidak punya hak untuk menetap di satu tempat manapun. Banyak mereka, mayoritas semuanya pengen pulang ke kampung halaman sendiri-sendiri ya. Mereka semua, bahkan orang-orang dari Palestina pun yang menjadi korban perang, mereka semuanya pengen pulang. Tapi bagaimana kami bisa pulang? Orang Indonesia pun juga pengen pulang. Tapi bagaimana kami bisa hidup di negeri kami sendiri kalau lapangan kerja susah dicari, gaji sangat rendah, juga kebutuhan sangat mahal ya. Sementara kami punya tanggung jawab keluarga, kemudian juga pelayanan sosial, pendidikan lah, kesehatan itu mahal sekali.
Benar.
Nah, karena mahal itulah yang membuat masyarakat itu non-stop berbondong-bondong jadi migran di luar negeri. Dan inilah kenyataan yang kita hadapi. Bahkan hari ini migrasi di Indonesia itu bukan lagi migrasi orang desa ke luar negeri, tapi migrasi orang kota berpendidikan untuk menjadi pekerja migran di kapal ya, bahkan mungkin di pabrik ya, di rumah-rumah jompo, dan itu menjadi kenyataan, dan banyak dari mereka juga jadi korban trafficking ya. Jadi itu kenyataan yang sebenarnya kita tidak bisa ingkari ya, dan makanya penting sekali untuk kita semua, baik migran maupun komunitas Indonesia atau di luar Indonesia, sudah mulai harus melihat ini sebuah persoalan besar. Mengapa kalau Indonesia kaya atau banyak negara asal kita negeri kaya ya, di Latin Amerika semuanya kaya minyak, kaya hasil bumi dan semuanya. Tapi mengapa kok miskin semua, harus jadi tenaga kerja, harus menjual diri, bahkan harus menjual organ. Kemudian ini jadi pertanyaan, ada apa dengan dunia ini? Kenapa sampai memperlakukan anak manusia seperti ini? Nah, ini menurut saya yang harus jadi pertanyaan panggilan bagi semua pihak untuk mulai mempertanyakan, mengkritisi, dan juga turut membantu membuka ruang-ruang bagi migran yang bersangkutan bisa bersuara. Jadi saya sangat menghargai dengan Green Radio yang mau berbicara dengan saya untuk saya menceritakan masalah ini. Hampir semua tidak ada yang mau. Kalau saya berbicara dengan pemerintah, bagi mereka ini bukan masalah. Jadi ruang-ruang seperti ini bagi saya jauh lebih penting, karena bagi saya dukungan dari masyarakat itu sangat menentukan. Ketika seseorang terancam hukuman mati misalnya di Arab Saudi, ketika masyarakat Indonesia bersuara, itu nanti pemerintah akan langsung bergerak.
Benar.
Tapi kalau masyarakatnya diam saja, ya apapun yang terjadi, mau orang dari Malaysia dideportasi sampai mati didunukan, ya nggak ada yang berbicara. Nah, ini menjadi penting. Kenapa itu? Bagi saya, bagi International Migrant Alliance, fokus kami memang di penyadaran dan empowerment ya, dan pemberdayaan. Jadi ini hal yang sangat penting. Jadi saya berharap bahwa kedepannya semua rekan-rekan Indonesia dalam kapasitas apapun ya, mau jadi guru, sebagai dosen, atau orang masyarakat biasa lah, ibu PKK ya, atau mungkin di radio, dan gunakan platform yang ada, ruang yang ada untuk mulai mengangkat isu ini. Di Sumatera banyak orang-orang pengungsi. Mungkin jangan melihat mereka sebagai orang hitam atau orang coklat, tapi bertanya, kenapa kamu di sini? Itu pertanyaan yang sepele ya.
Benar.
Tapi why are you even here? Ya, ada apa di negerimu? Ya, kok kamu bahkan tidak bisa pulang? Dan maunya sih kamu di camp-camp ini sampai bertahun-tahun. Emang suka sama camp ini? Ya kan? Mungkin mulailah dari pertanyaan yang itu memang ingin paham, bukan hakimi ya.
Benar.
Ya bukan kenapa kamu di sini kamu mau dapat apa, dapat uang ya dari sini ya, atau kamu mau ngambil apa dari sini, kok kamu nampak berbahaya sekali. Nah, jadi kita harus juga mengikis rasisme ya.
Benar.
Masyarakat harus belajar mengikis rasisme. Kita welcome orang asing dengan memulai bertanya, mengapa kamu di sini? Nah, dari situ apa yang bisa kami bantu? Ya, mungkin kita nggak bisa ngasih banyak, nggak bisa membuat mereka bebas dan bisa jadi pengungsi di Australia, Selandia Baru dengan cepat. Tapi minimum we can help dengan membuat hidup mereka lebih lebih tenang di tengah mereka menunggu transisi. Kalaupun mereka diperlakukan buruk di selama di camp, kita juga harus bersuara. Jadi masyarakat yang menampung ya, maksudnya kayak saya di Hongkong, masyarakat Hongkong atau masyarakat Indonesia itu punya suara yang sangat menentukan. Ya, kalau kita speak out, pemerintah akan hati-hati, ya. Bahkan calo yang jahat-jahat pun juga mikir, oh kita diawasi kayak gitu. Tapi kalau kita berpura-pura tidak tahu, bahkan mungkin tidak mau tahu, wah itu kasihan sekali hidup mereka. Nah, inilah mungkin pesan saya kepada seluruh pendengar dari Green Radio, apalagi sekarang dengan climate change, dengan COVID-19, semuanya sangat uncertain ya, jadi tidak ada kepastian. Maka solidaritas itu yang harus menjadi kunci. Mari mulai dengan open minded, ya, keterbukaan pikiran kita untuk belajar dari orang lain, ya, dan jangan kecil ini ya, pikiran kecil ya, pikiran sempit. Ya saya kamu gitu ya.
Benar-benar.
Manusia sama lah. Tuhan pun sudah bilang manusia punya punya posisi yang sama di mata Tuhan. Jadi apapun agamamu, apapun warna kulitmu dan sebagainya, itu mungkin akan menjadi pelajaran positif selama COVID. Orang akhirnya tidak melihat lagi kulitmu apa, semua orang bisa kena COVID kan?
Iya, benar. Oke. It was great, sangat luar biasa sekali, banyak sekali pelajaran yang mungkin bisa saya ambil dan juga pendengar Green Radio lain ambil nih dari interview bersama kakak. Semoga di sana sehat-sehat bersama teman-teman kita IMA di sana. Mungkin sekian dari interview kita atau meeting kita hari ini, Kak. Terima kasih banyak.
Terima kasih
untuk waktunya.
semuanya. Terima kasih. Sampai ketemu.
Sampai ketemu, Kak. Sehat-sehat ya, Kak. Mari.